Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, June 8th. It's the WNW 338. And I want to talk to you about a story that hasn't gotten a lot of media attention, but it sure should. I think it's one of the biggest stories of the week. Actually, one of the biggest stories of the year. And it is this little exposure here. The Senate probe exposes Obama secret Iran deal to sidestep U.S. sanctions. Now, this was to reward Iran as part of this phony nuclear deal where nobody signed it. This is a statement of fact, folks. This isn't some crazy internet allegation. This is verified by my sources and also in writing by the Kerry State Department to the then Congressman Mike Pompeo, who is now the head of Secretary of State, who is the Secretary of State. And so nobody signed this deal. America didn't sign it. Iran didn't sign the nuclear deal. France did not sign the nuclear deal. The UK, Germany, France, China, nobody signed the deal. Nobody signed it. Nobody would put their name on it. Such a great thing. I mean, just a fabulous thing. And it was a redheaded stepchild. Nobody wanted to sign it. And then here we have, with this sidestepping of U.S. sanctions, and it was rewarding the Iranians for the Iran deal, the no deal, no signature deal, the no deal deal. The Obama administration secretly sought to give Iran access to the U.S. financial system by sidestepping sanctions kept in place after the 2015 nuclear deal, despite repeatedly telling Congress and the public it had no plans to do so. It lied. They lied. They said they weren't going to allow Iran to use the dollar system. And this, mind you, after they sent Iran on C-130s pallets of cash. It started out by saying it was $400 million, then it was $1 billion, that's up to $1.7 billion. My friend Dr. Dave Janda of Operation Freedom came on here. His sources said it was billions of dollars flown in. They must have multiple C-130s flying in, loads, pallets of $100 bills and euro notes and to the Iranians. But that wasn't good enough. They had to use the financial system for one deal for a little less than $6 billion. I think it was $5.7 billion. Really, just one deal? They only used one deal, just one time? That's like finding one roach in your house. You think the Iranians just used it one time? Now, the AP is reporting it wasn't illegal. Them giving permission and allowing it wasn't illegal. Mind you, this is according to the Kerry State Department, according to the Clinton State Department in the Obama administration, according to every State Department, I think going back to the Carter administration, at least the Reagan administration, Iran is the number one state sponsor of terror. They were aiding and abetting the number one state sponsor of terror, both with physical cash and the electronic money system, the dollar system. Not illegal? Really? You aided and abetted electronically the world's number one sponsor of terror, according to the Obama administration and the State Department. And it's not that, listen, and please don't write me. I'm going to X out the comments about how this is Iran's money. This was a giant fraud. And we could have had a real deal. And how do I know it's a fraud? Well, no signatures for one thing by anybody. That's a fact. Don't argue with me. And the other one is Iran threatens to expose U.S. diplomats who took bribes to create the nuclear deal. This was an actual tweet, folks. I looked it up. This was the tweet from Rahman Ghavami. He's a senior Iranian advisor, and this happened on 5/8/18. This is his Twitter account now. We will reveal which Western politicians and how much money they had received during the nuclear negotiations. You wonder why Macron, the president of France, and the chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, are mad at Donald Trump? Because they're being outed with fraud and nobody signed it. I bet your media is not telling everybody in France and also in the UK. Of course, they jail people for free speech now in the UK. And also Germany. France has their new fake news edict. This would be fake news, even though it's a letter signed by the Kerry State Department going to Mike Pompeo, who was congressman at the time, who is now Secretary of State, saying it was not signed. The Iran deal was not signed. But that's not happening. They're not telling people over there. Here is Angela Merkel, and you wonder why we have this trade tension. Merkel urges Europe to step up in Trump's New World Order. Yeah, America first. It's not a New World Order. Trump's America First doctrine, how dare him look after Americans. Trump's America First doctrine shows, this is according to Merkel, we have a serious problem with multilateral agreements. You mean like the one that wasn't signed with the Iran fraud deal? Merkel told German lawmakers. I bet she's not telling those German lawmakers, yeah, we didn't sign it and we took bribes. Bet she's not telling them that. Because according to the Iranians, they took bribes. Let's move over to Macron, the president of France. Here's the title here this past week. France's Macron threatens rare rebuke of U.S. He's talking about Trump at G7. Trump fires back G7. They're talking about G7 being G6 plus one, like the United States is the odd man out. Really? They're gonna attack the United States, the G7, G6. They're gonna attack Donald Trump for pulling out of fraudulent deals for their New World Order. Think about this. You've had all these people say about Trump's, he's a deep state, monster. The deep state has him right. Really? The deep state has him right where they want him? He backed out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was a construct of the New World Order to tear down and rip off America and send jobs overseas and hurt our sovereignty. He backed out of the fraud that is the Paris Climate Accord because it was going to allow India and China with, 2.6 or 7 billion people to continue to pollute all the way up to the year 2030 while America pays for it. And then he backed out of the no-signature Iran fraud where they not only gave them pallets of cash, but they allowed them and lied about it to use the electronic SWIFT system, the dollar system, the U.S. financial system, to cash it. Just one deal for a little less than $6 billion, which I think is bogus. I think people are going to go to jail over this. They're going to find out more about it. But what do I know? It certainly is a ripoff, and I think it's bordering on treason when you're helping out the number one state sponsor of terror. But let me move on with the Macron threatens a rare rebuke of U.S. at G7. And this is Trump firing back. Please tell Prime Minister Trudeau, this is of Canada, and President Macron that they're charging the U.S. massive tariffs and creating non-monetary barriers. The EU trade surplus with the U.S. is $151 billion. The Canadian tariff on the U.S. is 300% on dairy, hurting our farmers and killing our agriculture. Now think about that, folks. They like the lopsided deal. America is supposed to be torn down. Our jobs are supposed to leave. Our people are supposed to be, boiled down to where it's a small echelon at the top and all the rest of us deplorables. And they don't like that Trump is actually coming out and nixing deals that are obviously fraudulent and at the very least bad for the United States. That's why you're seeing all of this tension. There's another story out there saying that our trade deficit has shrunk, just nosedived, because they're going to have deals. China, they cannot afford to get involved in a trade war. Now they're talking about, we'll instead of tit for tatting you, they're talking about $70 billion in agricultural products they're going to take in. Now, listen, we still have a $500 billion $500 billion trade deficit with China every year. But, $70 billion is a start. It's a good start. You're not going to get that back in one deal in 1 year, but that's a good start. It's going in the right direction. And then if you look at this they hate this. See, they want this one world government all tied up into one ball, the U.S. and Mexico and Canada. And if you look at this headline right here, and it's Trump talking about how he wants separate deals. I think this makes sense. Trump seeks separate NAFTA talks with Canada and Mexico. Where they're two, as he says both countries are as different as night and day. They're different as night and day. And, these guys are upset, whether it's Trudeau, that little communist wacko Marxist up there. They're all Marxist, actually, frankly. One world government, no God. The government's your God. They commit fraud and they commit treason on their own people. And what? Yeah, we can do that. We're going to do that, according to them. This is what this is about. This is a fly in the New World Order ointment. Now they're literally talking. Macron was talking, hinting that it'll be our six nations have a bigger, more trade than just America. I mean, they're our allies. These people are our allies, and we found out that people in the UK spied on the incoming Trump administration, and also the Trump campaign. The UK spying that Judge Napolitano on Fox News outed, and then they gave him some days off, and he didn't back down. And the UK did spy on Donald Trump. The Obama administration asked them. This whole spy thing's a fraud. It's a framing. They planted the idea, the evidence that there was a Russian collusion when they knew there was not. That's what they're paying people, hundreds of thousands, if not a million, maybe a few $1 million, for this whole thing, luring people overseas. The whole thing is a giant mess. But if you tie it all together with the fraud of these deals, the fraud of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the ripoff of America, the fraud of the Paris Climate Accord, which is totally bogus. None of these are treaties. None of these went through the Senate. This is just edict by the upper elite and the Soros-inspired bankers. I believe, or Rothschild-inspired bankers. I believe Macron worked for the Rothschilds. But none of this. None of this is good for America. It's all lopsided deals, and how dare you talk to us, as they say in China or in France or Germany or anywhere else. How dare you ask us to drop our huge tariffs and reverse our lopsided trade deficits? We want to continue to rip off America. That's basically what they're telling Trump. I mean, this G7 meeting, or as Macron would like to say, G6 plus America plus one. This is not going to go well for them. Their banks are in big trouble in Germany. You heard Martin Armstrong. I had him on the show talking about Deutsche Bank, and he says, you wonder why Deutsche Bank isn't just in Germany. Isn't rolled in with Commerce Bank? He says, because Commerce Bank has a ton of derivatives as well. They're both sick banks. I mean, those two big banks, that's like, Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase both going under at the same time. I mean, do you think that Germany can take that? And what about Italy? They elected a kind of a pro-Trump, a populist government. They want to bring back the Italian lira. They want to do away with all the fraud and the debt of the euro. I think Italy was at the number 3 or 4th, probably the 4th or 5th biggest holder of gold in the world. What happens if they find out they don't have any gold left? That all got done away with to get into the EU. When they find that out, I think they don't have any gold. I think that their gold is gone. It's in China. It's somewhere, but it ain't. But it's not held in safekeeping for the Italians. Mario Draghi, didn't he come from Italy? Would he end up like Benito Mussolini? Like Mussolini? Is that right? Hung upside down. Dead? I don't know. But France has some terribly weak banks too. And what are they doing? They're doubling down on taxes and more of this social justice and more taxes and more clamp down on free speech. France has some deal going where they're going to have fake news police, fake news. Anything that doesn't comply with the New World Order. You already saw what happened with Tommy Robinson. He's in jail for the next 13 months unless they can spring him. They tried him without any due process. They didn't even try him. They just stuck him in jail for 13 months. I guess they figure, a few people will complain, bitch, and moan, but it'll be okay. We're going to stick him in jail for 13 months, and that's exactly what they did. You can't have somebody out there talking about free speech, talking about what's wrong with your country, especially if it has to do with radical Islam pedophiles and grooming gangs. You can't have that. America is going to do better than people think. We still have a lot of debt. And something someday will have to happen with the debt. Will that be forced on us? Will that be a black swan event? But I think Martin Armstrong, at least for the time being, has that right. We're the prettiest ugly sister, the cleanest dirty shirt in the hamper. And I think one of the biggest things that happened with the Trump tax cuts wasn't the tax cuts or even the repatriation of money. I think one of the biggest, and things that happened, and you didn't hear Sierra Club or anybody even bitching about it, was he opened up Anwar for oil drilling and Gull Island and all these other drilling, and we're going to end up being the world's biggest exporter of oil. We're going to end up being Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's awful hard for your currency to disappear if you're the world's top exporter of oil or one of the top exporters of oil. I mean, I don't know. I think this is could go on for a while, or we can have a black swan. It could zig when everybody was zagging. I don't know. There's a lot of debt out there, but what Trump is doing is trying to cut expenditures, as any good CEO would do of a company, and America is kind of like a company, and he's trying to ramp up revenue. And he can't do that with lopsided, terrible, awful trade deals that don't make any sense unless you're just trying to tear down America and turn it into a third world country with open borders and terrible trade deals and lopsided trade imbalances. And if you're trying to tear down America, that's how to do it. And Trump has stepped in and said, America first. We're not tearing down America. And my goodness. And then he's exposing this fraud. This fraud of this Paris Climate Accord, that's over in Europe. That was their darling thing over there. Also, this Iran deal, another big giant piece of fraud with no signatures and hey, access to the American financial system. And so that's what's going on, I think. And on top of that, we have the DOJ will release the report. This is the IG reports on Clinton email probe on June 14th. In an explosive hearing to follow. Listen, folks, this is just the Clinton emails. This is 1.2 million documents. They didn't do 1.2 million documents on just the Clinton email probe. And as I've said many times, this story with Clinton is she had private, unprotected servers, didn't care about protecting. What she cared about protecting herself. Private, unprotected servers to cover the fact she was taking treasonous bribes through the Clinton global charity fraud. That's it. I mean, think about this. Bill Clinton, while she was Secretary of State, was bagging $500,000 speaking fees. Is he getting those fees now? Oh, no. Are they getting these, 40, 50, $100 million donations at the Clinton Foundation, which they've started back up against this, incidentally? I guess they're trying to raise money for legal fees. Have they been getting these big donations? Oh no, because they're politically dead. They can't do any more favors. They can't monetize their name. They can't monetize their government service. Can't do that. And yet, what we have from the propaganda media, which is clearly propaganda. I mean, CNN is an embarrassment, and all these people are an embarrassment. I mean, what, Hannity come out and talk about Mueller's asking for people's cell phones and their electronic records, and Hannity's out saying, I guess you should just do what Hillary Clinton did and take a hammer to them and bleach bit your servers and crack up your cell phones and bust up everything, your hard drives, and he got skewered for that by the left-wing media. And he's a traitor, and he just simply for mentioning all the same things that Hillary Clinton did. I got to tell you, folks, this IG report is just one in many rounds that's coming. You saw the deputy FBI director McCabe asking for immunity. Well, he just said that I did crimes and I want immunization. I want to be immunized from being prosecuted for all the crimes I committed. And I'll tell you what happened, where the bodies are buried. You got James Comey, who's acted, he was dishonest, or the latest thing was he overstepped his bounds. I think forget that. I mean, he committed so many crimes. He lied to Congress. I think Congress has did a criminal referral of him on more than 10 different crimes they allege he committed. James Comey. And again, the reason why they're doing this is because of all the crime they committed. You don't get people to commit one felony after another just for nothing, just because you like the Democrats better than the Republicans. This is them, listen, if you're going to go to jail for 50 years, what's another 50 years? I mean, you're going to be dead. I mean, if you're 50 years old and you get a 50-year sentence, you're going to get out of prison. You're going to live to 100. I mean, what's another 30 or 40 years in felonies? I mean, they give you if they give you 50 years, they might as well give you 250 years. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. You're going to die in jail. And so that's what is going on here. There's so many crimes that were committed, and then Mark Taylor brought this up, and I actually sent me a piece of audio tape from True News on the day after Trump was elected, and he said, I'm getting these military tribunals. There's so much crime that there's going to have to try people in mass. It's going to be huge. And if you look at what's going on with the size and scope of what's going on with the FBI and the DOJ and the CIA, Brennan, Mr. Big Mouth, dozens and dozens, hundreds of people could end up in jail. And that's another thing that Mark Taylor told me was that, Trump's got to be careful. This could take down big parts of government. I mean, this allowing the Iranians to use the dollar system to cash out about a little less than $6 billion. I'm betting it happened a heck of a lot more than once. I mean, they had $150 billion that was supposed to come back to them. They didn't give it all to them in cash. Of course, they had to pay out the bribes. So that probably came with use of the SWIFT system. The dollar system, the world's reserve currency system. Makes things go a lot faster if you can use the SWIFT system, even today in the world. And the dollar is getting stronger. I mean, you're going to see money from Europe as that turns into caca over there. And if they want to start some trade war with the U.S., the money's going to leave there and come over to America. You heard Peter Schiff talking about banks over there pay negative interest rates. Well, if you got banks over here paying 1.5%, 2%, a 10-year treasury at 3%, where's the money going to go? It's going to go where it's treated best. And that's the thing that's going to keep America going for a while. I mean, if there is a big crash, you want to crash with everybody's money on your side of the table. And I wanted to end with this final thing that's just disgusting, but this is the mainstream media, and it really shows how frustrated they are. They're not functioning as media. They're functioning as propaganda agents. They are functioning as advocates. They're functioning as militants. But they're not functioning as fair and biased media that's trying to get information out to the public. They're not doing that. They're out there to destroy Trump any way they can. It's been going on since before he was elected. They tried to destroy him before. They tried to destroy him after. They've had massive layoffs. I predict there will be more massive layoffs coming to the legacy mainstream propaganda media. They are not news media. They are not the news. I'm sorry, they're not. There is no way anybody with any kind of journalism chops can come out and say that reporting 91, 92, 95% of the time negative on a president is fair and unbiased reporting. Sorry. And that's a Harvard poll. I think Harvard had them at 92 or 3%, 95% negative reporting on Donald Trump. And it's unbelievable. I mean, yet people reporting things that the reason why you haven't seen Melania is that Donald Trump beat her up. I mean, ridiculous, stupid stuff floated that they're putting out on CNN and MSNBC, and let the layoffs continue, I say. And you could start right here with Time Magazine. This is pretty disgusting. And again, you got the horns above his head, just like the cover when he was elected with the Time Magazine. They put the horns right over the top of Donald Trump's head. At least they didn't show him as some baldy and some decrepit thing, but they got him as a King Me. That's the disgusting trying to tear down Donald Trump thing, and latest thing they're trying to tear him down. They're trying. It's backfiring. The more they do this kind of stuff, the more people say, "Wow, that sure seems unfair." And I'm of the mind that if they continue to do stuff like this, then he must be doing a pretty good job. because the press is Marxist. They wouldn't tell you. They'd say, oh, no, we're not. Oh, we're journalism with a big J. Now, come on, stop. You're backing the Democrats. You're clearly in the tank with the Democrats. And the Democrats are clearly Marxist/communists. And, they want to say that the conservatives are the Nazis, but no. The socialists own that. Bernie Sanders, socialist. Hillary Clinton admitted 41% of the party, Democrat Party, socialist. And, that's about taking money from these people and giving to people that vote for you. And, socialism, it can only go towards Nazism. That's what happened in Germany. They killed those Jews to basically take their money and pump up their economy, and they did that. The Nazis are the Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party. That's the Nazis. National Socialists. That's what the Democrats are. And if they keep going the way they are, they're going to turn into Nazis. Mono-thinking, totally disrupt the family. It's Nazis and communists, Marxists. They're pretty close to being the same. Godless, the government's your God, that kind of thing. But what they're trying to do is tear down Donald Trump and tear down the people that voted for him. I can't remember some celebrity saying, the people that voted for Donald Trump are going to be embarrassed. I'm not going to be embarrassed. That's the kind of stuff, you don't agree with me, you must be stupid. You voted for this person, you must be embarrassed. No, I'm not embarrassed. No, I think anybody who voted for Hillary Clinton, who committed multiple obvious felonious crimes with the bleach bidding of servers, the destroying 33,000 emails that were requested by Congress. They were subpoenaed emails and destroyed them, hammering their devices, obstructing justice, doing the thing. If I were you guys that voted for them, and not many of my viewers voted for her, I'd be embarrassed I voted for a criminal. She committed obvious crimes. But with that, I say, listen, folks, I'm still getting people telling me that my emails, whether it comes from Greg at USA Watchdog or info at USA Watchdog, or any emails with Greg Hunter or stuff with my name in it, ends up in your spam file. Please check that. I thank everybody. I am behind on the people who've sent me snail mail, a few snail mail donations. I've been behind that. I've had some computer problems in the background. Don't like to complain about it. But I have, I'm a little behind on that. I'll get those out. But I want to thank everybody for supporting USA Watchdog with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. And remember, this is my favorite part, folks, and yours too. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and the Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control. Don't let those weasels in the deep state, the Luciferians, the New World Order creeps, the communists, the Democrats, the Marxists, don't let them instill fear in you. It robs you of your thinking ability. It robs you of your faith. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and the Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.